Hi, everyone. Your godmother is here. Thank you for joining me for my top 10 Irish horror films. And speaking of horror, before I get into this, you'll hear this bird shrieking during my recording. He is an enemy of the godmother. He loves to perch right outside my she shed, and I've done everything I can. Like, I go out, I clap at him, I yell at him. The neighbors think I'm crazy. The neighbors know I'm crazy. Um, but yet he comes back all the time. So I'm doing everything I can, and I do have things to, help me with my sound and sound quality. But the pitch of he's so shrill that he cuts through anything that I put into place. I mean, honey, he has been looking for a mate for years. This has been going on for years. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I mean, maybe he's mating with me. Maybe this is his love song to me. I don't love it. I don't. So anyway, let's get into this. But I just wanted to let you know what's going on if you hear that. So we do have, this is Irish horror. So we have a lot of folk horror here and a lot of darkness. So if you're following along and you want to watch these films, I'm just saying this because you might want to split up some viewings, and this is something I do, and I don't think we've discussed this before. I will watch some psychological horror, and then I'll throw in some cheesy creature feature, and then maybe a slasher, just to kind of break it up and give myself like a mental break from it. But we're all different, and there's some viewers who I know they really want to watch things about trauma and grief because it's cathartic for them, and that's what's wonderful about art. We all approach it from our own personal needs and wants and desires, and the only rule with art is that we continue to create it, right? So also, I am going to be continuing to add my keywords for those of you who are playing along with that passport game on my Substack. Again, I'm looking for keywords from 3 different countries or 3 different areas. So let's get into it. Number 10 is not that dark. It's Let the Wrong One In from 2021. And this is a horror comedy. And despite its title, it's not a spoof. It's not like a spoof of Let the Right One In, but it is about vampire movies in general. It was directed by Connor McMahon and stars Carl Rice and Ian Duffy. There's a lot of blood in this, but it's really cartoon gore. It's silly. It's funny. It is cartoonish. There were plenty of places where I laughed out loud, and even a few that my husband, who is picky, laughed at. So if you're a vampire movie fan, you'll really get what they're going for. You'll pick up what they're laying down in this film, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Number 9 is my controversial pick, as it was kind of panned, and that is Shrooms from 2007. Directed by Patty Brethnock and starring Lindsay Hahn and Jack Houston. Yes, of that Houston family. So we have these American college students who are going to Ireland. They want to go camping and do some shrooms, as you do. No judgment. One of our Americans takes the death bell mushroom. Just that name alone, right? She has a seizure. And then as she comes out of it, she continues to have some really gnarly hallucinations that she believes is foretelling the future. At the same time this is going on, there's a killer stalking the woods where they're camping, taking them out one by one. And you know the godmother loves this. I love to see people doing dumb things in the woods. Did your grandmother, that's a Freudian slip. Someone needs to give me a grandchild. Did your godmother do stupid things in the woods ever? Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's why I enjoy watching other people do it. There is a twist to this film that I'm not going to give away. I kind of saw it coming. It really wasn't a twist for me, but this is really great scenery, and I really like the kills. Number 8 is The Devil's Doorway from 2018, directed by Ashlyn Clark. Put a pin in her. I mean, not literally. Don't literally stick a pin in her, but stick a pin in her mentally. and starring Layla Roddy and Kieran Flynn. Now, Devil's Doorway takes place in 1960, and there are two priests who are sent to a Magdalene asylum because they were told that the statue of the Virgin Mother that is there will cry blood. And yes, we do have the old priest and the young priest, and the godmother's so tired of this scenario. But this one didn't bother me so much. I think the actors, did such a good job with it. But, we have the old priest who has seen too much and a young priest who's still kind of enthusiastic about everything. They set up cameras. And this is what really kind of took me out of the film because it takes place in 1960, not 2026. And yet these priests were able to keep feeding film into these cameras. They always had new reels of film available. And I can remember, I wasn't around in the 1960s. I know that's hard to believe as old as I look. But I can remember the 1980s and 90s when we were still using cameras to film things like birthday parties and whatever. And it could sometimes, be challenging to get new film, or those of us who were recording things on TV, to get those new blank VHS tapes. Sometimes we had to go to great lengths to do that. So it's kind of well, how are these guys just constantly feeding this film in 1960? But that's just me being picky. You can put that aside. I do love how this film stares unblinkingly into the horrors that were perpetuated against young women by the Catholic Church in Ireland at that time. It was really, really well done. And there's, possible demonic possession going on in this film, possible culty stuff going on in this film. Obviously there's religious abuse, and there's a lot of just creepiness. Number 7 is another vampire movie, and that is Boys from County Hell from 2020, directed by Chris Baugh and starring Jack Rowan and Nigel O'Neill. This one starts with a bang. We see this older couple. They're in their sitting room or living room watching TV, and suddenly they start bleeding from their eyes and nose and mouth. And then it kind of gives us in a backstory of what's going on here. In this village, there's a cairn which contains the buried remains of Abatark, and he was supposedly the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Stoker was Irish. Many people believe he was British. No, he hated British men. And if you read Dracula through that lens, it's a really fun read. But anyway, this buried, vampire was supposedly what inspired Stoker. A construction company is making way for a new bypass. And guess what they have to pass right through? Who do they have to disturb? And that's kind of okay. But really, the actual, the plot behind it is really, really good. There's a lot of action in this film. And I really like the unique way that the vampire takes revenge. Number 6 is a tie of two movies that are very foresty, with unexplainable things happening in the forest. And they both have children where the parents aren't sure if their child is still their child. As long as you end up with the same number of kids you started with, that's a win. I think parents can confirm that. You go to the soccer field with 2 kids, you leave with 2 kids. Doesn't matter if it's the same 2 kids. It's really about quantity. Okay? It's okay. So in these films, you start with a child, you end with a child. Great. Congratulations. But the first one at number 6 is The Hallow, directed by Corin Hardy and starring Joseph Mall and Bojana Novakovic. Sorry, Bojana. Oh, I cannot say her name. Let's try it again. Bojana Novakovic. And this takes place in beautiful, lush forests. No sun, but very gorgeous. And in the very beginning, we see this drop pacifier floating along, and we know something folkish and horrorish and folk horrorish is about to happen. This is a damp film. And my captions kept describing it as squelching. And I realized how much I really like that word. I usually use it like to mean to squelch or to stop something. But now I'm going to use it for my soggy water shoes. Basically, this film is about a conservationist who's exploring the forest and he finds some really strange fungi, and then creepy things happen. And he believes that he attributes the creepy things to the locals who he thinks are trying to scare him off. But then as the movie goes on, it becomes clear that it's not like actual humans behind what's happening. There are jump scares in this movie. And again, just that overall darkness and creepiness, which is also in the second number 6, which is The Hole in the Ground from 2019, directed by Lee Cronin and starring Shauna Kerslake and James Cosmo. And this is another beautiful dark film featuring some deep woods. The sun never shines in this film. Never. Now, one thing I hate is the overhead drone shot of the car traveling down the road. And there's usually like woods on either side of the road. I don't know if contemporary film schools, if that's the first assignment for everybody who wants to be a director. Like, hey, you're gonna have a drone following a car down a road. And if you can nail that, buddy, you're in. Like, I don't know, because I see it constantly. You can have people exiting a car, and I understand that they drove to their location. I don't need to see the overhead drone shot, or else I'm like, well, how did they get here? Did they apparate? Did a UFO drop them off, even though they're stepping out of a car? So I don't need to see it anymore. There's also a subplot in here of the mother making the kid like clean his plate. And I'm not going to go into that because I spent way too much time with the drone shot nonsense. At another point, the godmother will share her theories on clean plates. But we have this kid who he moved with his mother. So, there's going to be some trauma with the kid. He's in a whole new school, left his friends. We don't really know where dad is. But despite that drone shot, it's a beautifully shot film. And there's a lot of shots that belong on our Renaissance on Reddit. One thing about this film is that we're not sure going through the film how much what we're seeing is real and how much is mom. We know that mom was in an accident at some point in time prior to this move and prior to the events. She had like a lump on her head. We also know that she's taking some sort of medications, that she's kind of off and on. So we're like, is this real? Is it supernatural? Or is mom mentally ill? And you can go back and watch the discussion that I had with Ukraine Hackett Cantabrana about how this is a common trope in horror films where the mother's mentally ill and the mother's mental illness is what kind of spurs everything that's going on. So anyway, but this film is creepy. There's some claustrophobic shots. Like I said, beautiful shots. There's like a moment or two though in here that I laughed and I wasn't supposed to laugh. You know what I mean? There's that bird. Do you hear him? Or is it me? Am I like the mom in this film? Was I hit in the head? Am I on medication? And this bird's not real. But I wasn't supposed to laugh because it was supposed to be like a scary moment. So that's why this movie couldn't overtake The Hallow. Number 5 is All You Need Is Death from 2023. And this was directed by Paul Duane and starring Simone Collis and Charlie Mayer. And I decided I really like him. I'm watching the film and I'm like, I know this guy, but I looked him up on IMDb and I don't. And I came to the realization that he just reminds me of a friend of mine. And I think that's why I felt so warmly about him. But anyway, one thing about your godmother, and I think some of you already know this, is I love when folks take a swing. I love when people take a risk, as long as they're not harming anyone else. They're not depriving anyone else. And taking a risk is scary. And it's difficult. Your godmother will always stand behind you, right? If you're taking a risk, your godmother will always be one of those people behind you, cheering you on. This movie was self-funded by the director because he wanted to see something different. And I think many of us can relate to that. Many of us are tired of the same old in cinema. And many of the people involved in the film were willing to participate at a very, very reduced fee. So for me, this film is art for the love of art. And I found all this out after I watched the film and enjoyed it. So this did not influence my enjoyment of the film. But as I thought about the film more and more after, and I realized the humble roots it came from, it made me appreciate it even more. If you're into music, especially folk and traditional music, then you'll really enjoy this as well. Basically, this movie is about Anna, who's an Irish folk singer. I mean, like a very, very just bar level. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being, the bar band. That's a great thing. But that's where she is. She's not famous. And she and her boyfriend travel through rural Ireland. I can't say that word, rural, to document obscure Irish folk songs and then sell the recordings to collectors. So that's the setup of this film. Again, it's unique. They become fascinated when they hear about this 1,000-year-old folk song that was allegedly passed down from mother to daughter. Like only one mom will know it and sing it to her daughter. And that's how it's been passed down through the generations. And they track down this elderly woman who can sing it. And the song is about a king who's betrayed by a woman he loves. And then he places a curse on her and her lover and her descendants. So when you hear this song, it causes like sinister things to happen. And I mean, some wild things. So I really recommend this. I think it's an underappreciated film, and I do recommend people watch it. Now, number 4 is also going to be controversial because I know some of you will have this much higher on your list. And I know I've missed some. I know there's some there's some other Irish films I've watched that I had to boot off the list. You can certainly talk to me about it in the comments. But number 4 is Oddity from 2024, directed. And oh my God, I can hear you guys going, come on, that should be number 1. No, it was my number 4. Directed by Damien McCarthy and starring Willem Lee and Carolyn Bracken. And, I'll get into why it's number 4. Basically, okay, let me just tell you. Basically, everyone was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe what happened. I saw the whole thing play out like when I started the movie. There was no twist for me. There was nothing surprising, nothing shocking. And that's okay. Not every film has to be Sixth Sense. Not everything has to have a twist. But I think because so many people are like, oh my God, the twist, that I went into it like, is the twist in the room with us? Did the twist happen? Where's this twist? But this is about the wife of a psychiatrist, and they bought this country home way out in the boonies, and she's alone during a storm. And a patient of her husband, who seems a little, like he's creepy, he comes and he warns her. He's like, there's something in the house, and she's kind of like, is it you? Like, that's probably you, right? And then, oh my God, there's some real like creepy scenes. Yeah, her being alone in the house. I'm not going to give it away if you haven't seen it, but that's a highlight of the film. And then later, she's found brutally murdered. And 1 year later, her husband visits the dead wife's twin sister, who is blind and clairvoyant. And the twin does a pop-in at that country home. Like, nobody invited her. She just shows up. And he's living at the country home with his new girlfriend. And so twin sister kind of like, tortures the girlfriend, which, yeah, we're like, yeah, good. I mean, good. It's super passive aggressive. And there's a golem. That was cool. The golem was super, super cool. So yes, spooky film. It's a great film. It's a great film. To me, it wasn't a number 1, but put a pin in that. Number 3. This one did have a lot of suspense for me. This one was tense for me. throughout, even though it's a real slow burn and not a lot's happening. And that is A Dark Song from 2023, directed by Liam Gavin and starring Catherine Walker and Steve Oram. This is a small budget film. Great acting, beautiful shots. Trigger warning, there is domestic violence in this, and sexual assault or coerced sexual participation, whatever. Um, Basically, what we have here is there's this bitter, grieving woman. She rents an isolated house. You know, we've got a lot of these isolated homes, isolated house in Wales, out in the boondocks, out in the no one's around. And she hires this occultist who's really like this angry. I almost want to say he's kind of like an incel in a little way. But anyway, he's this supposedly the spiritual guru, and he's leading her through this grueling months-long rite because she wants to summon her guardian angel because her son passed, and she wants to be able to speak to him. The rules are, once they start this process, they cannot leave the house. Like, this is the craziest quarantine ever. Once you begin, you're here. And the woman, like, she just endures months of punishing exercises. And the promise is, you know, you're going to see you're going to see your guardian angel, but you'll maybe see some demons too along the way. And, you know, she's going along with all this. She's complying with everything, all his monkey shines, except for the forgiveness ceremony. And we come to learn she's not here for forgiveness. Now, on the streets of Reddit, which I walk regularly, many people complained about the CGI at the end. I was raised Catholic, so the imagery was what I expected. I recognized it. It didn't bother me. And as I said, this film really had me riveted from beginning to end. Number 2 is Waka from 2024, directed by Ashlyn Clark. Yep, from Devil's Doorway. And I'm going to mess up these names, so just cover your ears. Starring Brittany Nactine and Claire Monelly. And in this, we have this young woman named Shu. And she's a home care worker. She's assigned to this elderly woman named Peg. And Peg is, Peg's a rough ride. Peg's a rough ride. Meanwhile, Shu's wife is pregnant. They're expecting a child. So, you know, she has to go stay with Peg, but half her brain is with her pregnant wife and what's going on there. Peg shows these signs of real superstitious behavior. I mean, even, you know, your godmother is superstitious. I am one of the most superstitious people I've ever encountered. And even I'm looking at Peg like, wow, she's taking it to levels even I don't do. Like, she's doing all kinds of crazy stuff in our house because she believes that these entities abducted her in the past and they're going to try to come back. Now, like The Devil's Doorway, which was also an Ashlyn Clark production, we have connections here to the Magdalene Laundries. So for both these films, if you're not familiar with that history, I would recommend familiarizing yourself with it. I was fortunate in that I watched both with my husband, and he's very familiar with it, and he could fill me in on things, and so gave me a much greater understanding. They speak Gaelic for part of this film as well. I don't want to give too much more away, but I liked it so much that one of my costumes last year for Spooky Empire, I always have a different costume a day, but one of my costumes was Frey Waka. Okay, so number 1. So here's where I give your beloved Damien McCarthy his proper credit. Number 1 is his 2020 film, Caveat. And this is so deservedly number 1. This movie was creepy. I mean, look at the poster. Just, oh, look at it. It stars Johnny French and Layla Sykes. And so it's about this man who, he has amnesia due to an accident that he was in. And he's hired to look after a woman who lives on a deserted island. Like literally, she's the only. Again, these abandoned, crazy houses out in the middle of nowhere. She's like the only house on this island. Okay, and he's supposed to go look after. He doesn't know her. She's prone to going catatonic, so she needs someone to watch her. And if that's not weird enough, while he's doing this job, he has to wear a leather harness that's chained. And I don't mean, no, that's not the kind of leather harness. This is not sexy. There's nothing sexy at all going on here. Basically, he's on this chain that limits where he can go in the house so that he can't go into her room. She can be in her room and no one can touch her. He later learns that the woman's mother went missing because she locked her husband in the basement. Now, okay, you know, and your godmother knows. But you know, and your godmother knows that basements are inherently creepy. So I'll give it to Damien McCarthy. And this is where you all give me messages. You all email me. You all message in, the comments box here. Oh, I live on an island and I have a basement. Well, good for you. Good for you. Your basement is underwater. Okay? So I wish you luck. But whatever. Anyway, the father's claustrophobic and he goes insane in the basement and he kills himself. Now, this woman who's whatever, orphan, mom's missing, dad killed himself, but she's a grown woman. When she's not catatonic, she roams around with a crossbow and this toy rabbit. And I hate this rabbit. I hate this rabbit so much because the rabbit, look at the eyes. The eyes are like human glass eyes. And the rabbit's holding this drum. And whenever like supernatural things are happening or something's dangerous close by, the rabbit starts drumming. This rabbit's a lot. It's a lot. And beyond the rabbit, there's more crazy stuff that goes on. But it made sense to me. Like it's crazy, except for the basement. But as crazy as this film got, I was all in. I'm like, yep, give me more. It was so suspenseful. Just wild. So thank you so much for traveling with me to Ireland. We're just going to make a short little trip over to England. Makes sense because we will be around the same time that we'll be celebrating the U.S. independence from England to talk about the top 10 horror films. So again, continue playing that passport game. Remember your godmother loves you. Please be kind to others. And that includes animals and plants. And please be kind to yourselves.